Welcome to Dominant Mets Nation. And once again, our New York Mets have been victorious over the LA Dodgers. Today, it wasn't it wasn't a clean game. It wasn't an easy game. But this is what good teams do. We find ways to win. We find ways to continue our win streak. This is our fifth series win in a row. We've taken the first two in LA, everyone. We've started a very difficult West Coast trip. Let's really put this in perspective right now. What the Mets are doing. We won 12 out of our last 15 games after starting 0-5. We are now 4 games over 500. We are 12-8, and I just want all MLB fans, Met fans know we are doing something that our Mets haven't been successful in doing in a very long time. Right now, we are being consistent. We are having a different kind of hero almost every day. Today it was Starling Marte. Yesterday, you could say after the Joey Wendell errors in the sixth inning, that Lindor, you know what? Maybe that's going to get his season started. He had a big 2-run homer in the seventh inning. I like what he said after the games. He was saying, you know what? It feels like I've been in a lot of these at-bats. I've been close. I've just missed this pitch. I've just missed that pitch. But I've been close, and it felt so good to pick up a teammate yesterday, Joey Wendell, and that's what good teams do. That's the mentality. That is the attitude that I want to hear. That is what I think is very important this year. That is very important. Lindor went on to say, "I saw Joey Wendell in the inning. He put his head down. He was kicking himself. He's like, 'We got you. I got you.'" Starling Marte again in the sixth inning, kind of in a way picked up. Jose Budo. Jose Budo, I can't say bad things about because, again, we have to put things in perspective. The Dodgers, right now, although they're struggling, they left the whole nation on base before a young pitcher to face that lineup. Even though he walked a lot of people, he still got through, I think, 4 1/3 innings. He still only allowed 2 runs. He kept us in the game, and that was very important. We did go through a lot of relievers in the game, but that's just because this win was so important. Carlos Mendoza, I killed him in the beginning of the season because I didn't understand how he was using the bullpen. Although there's some things here and there, and I'm like, what is he doing? But at the end of the day, he's kind of showing his genius. He's kind of showing why David Stearns put this man, a rookie manager, what he is doing, how he is inspiring, how he's motivating this team. I know, you know what, folks? We could have came out of the box and lost this game. We had a nice streak going, coming in, winning 5 games in a row. We already won the first game in LA. We got news that Francisco Alvarez tore a ligament in his thumb. This was the perfect letdown scenario, and everybody could have said it would have been justified. You have a young guy in the mound. You lost Francisco Alvarez. This could have been a time where the Mets took their foot off the pedal. But no. We find a way to win. We find a way. Now, in the first 2 games of the series, the Mets have allowed 6 hits and 4 runs to supposed juggernaut offense. And I know the Dodgers are struggling. I know. But good teams keep their foot on the necks of of teams that are struggling. I'm not going to say bad team. The Dodgers they were supposed to be a favorite to win the World Series. So let's put everything in perspective. And when we put everything in perspective, at the end of the day, there is one outcome. The Mets are good. They are a top team this year. They are a team to be reckoned with. They're the hottest team in baseball right now. So I want to go into some details of this game, but I wanted to start off by putting everything in perspective. And like I said, when we do that, then at the end of the day, we see how good our New York Mets are. We see how good our New York Mets are. And it doesn't matter who's on the mound. Sean Manaea yesterday, Jose Butto today, Luis Severino looks like he's emerging as like another ace. Reed Garrett, middle relief. The guys who are expected to do nothing are stepping up. And then, Brett Beatty, I love seeing him in the game today after learning of Francisco Alvarez being out. So that is good. Anybody who's worried about Francisco Alvarez, you know what? At the end of the day, more different players have to step up. Tomas Nido, yes, I'm not impressed with him. Omar Narvaez, this is going to be his opportunity right now. We still have firepower coming up with JD Martinez. We still have Mark Vientos down below, and he's doing well in the minor leagues. So don't worry about offense. Don't worry about the punch. I'm more a little upset about losing Francisco Alvarez on the defensive end. I like the way he holds runners close to the base. Even though he hasn't been that successful throwing out guys this year, the guy's got a freaking cannon. So that's where I'm a little bewildered. But okay, let's look at some of the stats today. And before I do that, as always, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, especially if you're a passionate sports fan, because this is Dominant Mets Nation. The Mets are finally dominant. This is the time to be here. Okay, so let's get into some of the highlights and stats. All right, folks, like I said, this game was not a pretty game, but this was indicative of where the Mets are going right now. You win games like this, you have to be gritty, and the Mets right now are gritty. So the Mets walked 10 batters, and you would think to a lineup like that they would make you pay. But the Dodgers, I believe, left 4 bases loaded situations. So you got to give kudos to Mets pitchers, because doing that to a top of the lineup like that, and I believe every one of their top 3 players got on base 4 times apiece. So that's 12 times those top 3 hitters, and still at the end of the day, only garnered 4 runs. So you got to give the bullpen credit. You really do. And there were a couple big key situations, but those are the overall numbers, and it's not pretty for the Dodgers. It really not. But who the hell cares? We only care about the Mets. Okay, so I think a really big moment in the game, and one of the biggest moments in the game, was in the 5th inning, and this is when Jose Butto was really tiring out, and Michael Tonkin came into the game in a 1st and 3rd scenario right now. And that was a situation where the Dodgers could have put a bunch of runs on the board. Tonkin limited the damage. Only 1 run came across. That made it a 2-2 game. But instead of the doors being blown open, the Mets had an opportunity to strike, and strike they did. That led to the next inning, and this is probably going to be the biggest play of the game. So Marte comes to the plate in the 6th inning after a big pitching performance by Michael Tonkin in the bottom of the 5th inning, and he hits a bomb to center field. A bomb. I believe Nimmo and Zach Short scored. It was a 3-run homer. That made it 5-2. And right then and there, I'm like, oh, here we go. But you know what? It wasn't going to be that easy. It was not going to be that easy. But I'm like, at that point in time, I'm like, there is going to be, or is so far, a hero every single day, a different hero. And Starling Marte, I got to give all the damn credit in the world. Starling Marte, what a big, everybody's saying that's like the biggest offseason or acquisition. Even though he was already on the team, he stunk last year. He stunk. And to have him resort to a 2022 All-Star form to the 2024 season. That is amazing. That is phenomenal. Obviously, Bader's been hitting the crap out of the ball. So you have that outfield with a lot better offensive situation out there. Nimmo you got now, Bader, Tyrone Taylor is hitting the ball off the bench. DJ Stewart's doing well at, in the DH position. I know he plays the outfield as well. But your offense right now in the outfield, you're like, wow, I expected them defensively to be good. Bader being a former, not former, but him being a Gold Glove guy, and all three guys playing center field in their past. So I'm like, defensively, I can expect the world, but offensively, they are, I don't want to say surprising me, but they are pleasantly, they are pleasant. Let's just say they are just very. It's a very good situation that we have right now with this team, and the outfield offense is looking very, very good. Okay, so let's move on to the bottom of the sixth inning, because the bottom of the sixth inning is very key. So we go into the bottom of the sixth inning. It is 5-2 our New York Mets. Starling Marte did well, and he hit that home run, and all good feelings are with the New York Mets right now. Jose Budo, he pitched decent. Decent. So we are in a pretty good spot, but we are facing the Dodgers. So let's see what happens, because the bottom of the sixth inning, I think, was key as well. And before we get to the bottom of the sixth inning, I didn't do a video yesterday, but Yamamoto, the Mets did what they needed to do against Yamamoto. They certainly did. His fastball is freaking hittable. His curveball looks nasty. His splitter looks decent, but his fastball is hittable. DJ Stewart put a beating on that pitch. Starling Marte, he hit the crap out of the baseball in his first at bat. But I got to say, the Mets against Yamamoto, real quick comment, did phenomenal. They did what they needed to do. But let's get to that bottom of the sixth inning right now. Okay, so the bottom of the sixth inning, huge inning for the Mets. Huge inning. Michael Tonkin stayed in the game, eventually put two guys on, and, he was eventually knocked out. When he was knocked out, there was two guys on base, one out. Drew Smith comes in. Drew Smith eventually leads to the bases being loaded. So bases are loaded. Shohei Ohtani is up. And Shohei Ohtani strikes out. Big strikeout with the bases loaded, with the best guy up. But unfortunately, Freddie Freeman, I got to say, was due. He was able to hit a single, and two guys scored. So it's 5-4 at this point. Mets were able to get themselves out of the inning, but it could have been a lot worse. It really could have been. So I got to give the Mets bullpen credit for holding it close. The Shohei Ohtani strikeout was immense, and it was huge. So the Mets go into the top of the seventh inning with the game being 5-4. Oh, I forgot to mention, in the bottom of the sixth inning, Max Muncy hit a ball to Pete Alonso, and Drew Smith didn't cover the first base. So literally, there was a race to first base. Pete Alonso, give him all the credit in the world. He literally dove to first base to tag the base, and that prevented the tying run from scoring. So before I get into any other details, I got to make sure that I highlight my guy Pete for making a defensive saving play and from preventing the Dodgers from gaining any more momentum and tying the game. Okay, so you know what? We're going to move ahead to the eighth inning, because that was the next probably key moment in our game. So in the eighth inning, and this is what I like to see. I like to see Carlos Mendoza be different, not go by a book. A lot of times you have your eighth inning guy and you have your ninth inning guy. But in the eighth inning, in this game, you had the top of the lineup coming up for the LA Dodgers. So Edwin Diaz eventually comes on in the eighth inning. I believe there was one man on base, and I think there was one out. Edwin Diaz walked the first two guys to load the bases, So you bring Edwin Diaz in to face the top of the lineup, and he ends up walking the bases loaded. So I think he had a pitching mound visit, and something clicked. Something clicked for not Shohei Ohtani. Something clicked for Edwin Diaz, and he kind of was triggered to the old Edwin Diaz. So he eventually struck out the next two guys to limit any damage, not limit damage, to prevent damage. So we were able to go into the ninth inning, and it is 6-4 at this point, and the Mets turned to Reed Garrett to take care of the ninth, and it was pretty easy. Reed Garrett literally struck out the side, earned his first save in a very long time. I think Reed Garrett has 3 wins and a save, so Reed Garrett is being one of the most valuable guys behind Edwin Diaz in that pen, so give him all the credit in the world. But this was a game of the Mets made a lot of, more or less the Mets wiggled out of a lot of jams. That's what it was. They were. And like I started off in the beginning of this video, good teams do that. So I'm trying to figure out where, how high should I be? I said in my last video, it is time to raise expectation. But is it time to say, hey, we're going to be a no doubt playoff team, or should we have World Series expectations? We're beating the likes of the Braves, we're beating the likes of the Dodgers. I'm looking at the landscape of the National League after beating many teams over 500. Who is the team in our way? I would still have to say Atlanta is there. They have the throne right now. We would have to dethrone them. But it's not like there's any obvious teams. We haven't played the Phillies yet, so I'm waiting to play them. But you know what? The Mets right now, like I said, number one, we're going to raise our expectation. Number two, we got to try to figure out where we fit. Are we a top 2 team? I said we're going to be the 3rd best team. I said that in the beginning of the season. I see guys coming on. I see guys like Francisco Lindor really coming on. So, it just seems like we are going to have a magical season. It seems like we're going to have a magical season. That's my opinion right now. We're having performances from guys who really weren't expected to perform, a la Reed Garrett, a la Jose Butto, and that's what you need in these seasons. We know we're going to have David Peterson. I think he's due back late May, early June. Tyler McGill is coming back. Kodai Sengek's coming back. We still have, like I always say, we got guys like Christian Scott down in the minors. We have guys like Mark Vientos, JD Martinez to come to help us supplement our offense. So, therefore, we are a deep team, and I think there's a lot of potential for us to make a run. And at the end of the day, the most important things are happening right now. We are building a clubhouse. We are building culture. We have that team camaraderie. That's why I began the video telling you about Francisco Lindor and his relationship with, let's say, a guy like Joey Wendell who messed up yesterday. You put your arm on a player who messes up. That's what good teams do. I'll tell you the difference between good and bad team. If you have a good team will put their arm around a guy who makes an error and say, we got you. That's what good teams do. A bad team will be, let's say, Justin Verlander pitched a good game last year, and let's say Pete Alonso made an error. Or Pete Alonso struck out. Then the camera pans to Justin Verlander, and he's kicking the something in the dugout or throwing his glove. Bad teams get on guys for not coming through, for making an error, for making a human mistake. Good teams say, hey, that's a human mistake. We got you. We have all these teams, and everybody makes mistakes. So I think that's what it is. And another thing, good teams are able to a player is able to put themselves in the other player's shoes, which I always think is very, very important. So, that's what I see what's going on right now. I really do. And I see a lot of different key aspects of the team really emerging, like the bullpen right now. You got all these guys interchangeable, our starting pitching. It's just really kind of like amazing how many aspects of the team are gelling. In the beginning of the year, the defense wasn't really clicking, and now the defense is getting better. Yes, we have stumbles, but the defense has looked a lot better. Outfield defense, I've been impressed with specifically. Lindor's always been solid. Pete's, making some really nice plays at first base. So, I really have to be happy with how the season has gone overall. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, it's a really good time to hit the subscribe button. So please hit the subscribe button, like the videos. If you have any suggestions, where do you think we're going for the remainder of the year? Like, where should our expectations be? That's really the culmination of where this video is going. Where should our expectations be? We are slaying all the top teams in the National League right now. So, that's where my conundrum is. My expectations right now are through the roof, but what are reasonable expectations? Drop the comments like you always do. I appreciate you. You know that. Thank you so much. As always, I will speak to you very soon. Have yourself a great night.